So to select an artist, two artists, one poet and one songwriter, and to compare their styles. So their styles should somehow be linked, and they're going to tell us how they're linked and what their styles are. They're also going to have to compare their style with an artist from the past, so that just to show further that they understand the different styles that artists might have. And they're going to have to create some sort of creative way to show their learning and to show who they would nominate to the Kennedy Center. So they're not going to present it necessarily in front of the class, but create something probably online, but not necessarily. Okay, what else, guys? I'm ready to So we're asking them to find a picture with a short caption that describes the artist. Then they're going to provide 4 examples of the stylistic techniques that artist those artists use, and compare that to someone from the past. And then individually they'll have to write something that compares their 2 artists, proving that they deserve recognition from the Kennedy Center and that they're paired together.
You want to tell me a little bit about the artists of the past and why that's an element that's being brought in, and who those people might be, or what that represents for the project?
So the artists of the past would help show that they understand the elements of style that would make a memorable or remarkable poem or song, to make something. So that was helping us tie in the standards that we want to cover. And so a poet, be Maya Angelou, or it would be something that the teacher brings in to as like a anchor for the kids, I guess, so that when they're doing their work, they're able to analyze and say this include. So when they're doing their work, they know that they have to have the important elements that make a poem or a song remarkable. Okay, good.
Okay, that's 3 minutes.
That makes sense.
Good. Okay, you guys want to take 2 minutes to kind of think about it out loud with each other? Yeah. Is that how that works? We listen in on your conversation?
I mean, yeah, that's
And then
fine.
you
That's
listen in?
okay. We can. Anyway, it's fine. Well, I had like 4 different of our projects in that project.
Yeah, I agree.
To start.
I thought I wasn't sure if they were going off of present day artists, like singers and whatnot.
So you do want it to all be past, like, or does it matter? It can be anything they choose. Are they assigned their artist or their singer?
We want to bring in some artists from the past as examples, so that we can teach them the literary elements through those artists of the past, and then they can choose the present day artists that are school appropriate.
Right, so they're allowed to choose their own. Okay, that's good. That keeps them more engaged because then they have a say in it. I found that's always better when the teachers allow us to do that.
I agree.
It's way more interesting.
Definitely, because you actually know, like, this is what we want to do. When, for their final product, I guess, you said they wouldn't present it to the class or anything. They would, what were you thinking would be their final product of showing what they learned, how they accomplished everything, I guess?
So if they make like a Google presentation, we're discussing it, having them maybe share it with the rest of the class, and so that they'll be evaluated by their peers just based on what they write, and not have the oral presentation part of it, because we want their writing to be strong enough that it can stand alone, and not have them having to explain to someone in their words.
And there will be, I don't know if we've changed this, but there would be some part of the presentation would be group. They would maybe make a comparison poster, but there'd also be a writing piece, which would be individual. So they'd have an individual and group.
Right.
We
That's how.
we had discussed separate stations, and they could have something digital to present, and the stations would, the students would move around the stations.
Okay, so kind of like an art gallery walk almost type presentation. Oh, okay, that's good.
Okay, that was 2 minutes of that. Do we want to continue, now go with more clarifying questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still, so you're going to give them, they're going to have to compare with a poet, a modern, and then also reflect on a past artist, or older artist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So one's past, one's present, kind of thing.
That's a little,
I mean, I like that idea actually, because then you can relate how I guess it's kind of evolved per se. I guess I like that idea.
I like that, but it's a tiny bit confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think we thought that their choice of a poet had to be a present. It was just to use it's not that it's a past artist, if you guys don't mind pointing this out. It's that it's one that's been noted for really great work.
Okay.
It's a known artist. So it doesn't matter that they're
No.
old or new or later, you know,
Right.
it's that, hey you guys, this one's been exalted.
So more like an influential kind of artist.
A master artist,
Right.
if you would. So
Okay.
in the area of singing and in the area of poetry.
And I think we actually changed the wording to a famous artist's work.
Okay.
But
Right,
now,
but you
that
could
now
be-
that I'm looking back at or maybe that just was changed.
So we could say noted.
Okay. Have you rolled this project out yet, or how are you planning on introducing this to your students? Haven't got there yet? Not sure yet?
We have an entry document,
Right.
but we're not sure how we're.
Okay.
Ooh, I know a perfect example for that.
Okay.
You could do an example of your own like that, like 2 famous ones. And should show the students what you want to see.
You don't want to give them too much
Yeah.
though, otherwise they'll completely copy it.
And they'll just work off of what you did, which doesn't really get them doing their own work.
My
What's
political
the
studies
magic
teacher-
of that? How does that?
It actually lets you see what you want to do, it actually let you see what you're gonna do, and gives you also ideas of what you can also
So where's the line between just enough of an example and not too much?
For an example, our American Studies class that we're in, we had to read The Great Gatsby, and then we had to take a scene within the book and create an alter scene, an alter ending, an alter beginning, whatever we wanted.
Mhm.
We had to have our first draft of our scripts turned in and everything before they showed us any past examples of what they'd be looking for, so that they knew, okay, you made your ideas, you had to think it through, now you can see kind of an idea of what we're looking for, but then they know we're not going to copy off of it. So that's a way you could do it. You could show, I guess, kind of like a skeleton of the project, something you'd want to do, like little examples. It would be more of an explanation, I guess, but then once they've already started working on it and you've seen their progress, that's when you can really show, hey, this is what I really want to see. That kind of gives them, they can critique things, but you know that they've already had to figure it out on their own.
A lot of times, for example, in our presentations or our projects that we're getting, we're somewhat confused, and so we'll work with what we know, and then a week later they'll show us an example, and then that really clarifies to us what we exactly have to do.
For our political studies class, we had to do a broadcast, like a news broadcast of a book. We were able to choose, and how they introduced us to the project was through a broadcast that our teachers created, and they showed us that, and they explained the whole process of the project, and that's how they introduced us to that project, which was dystopian broadcast.
So this is wonderful. We're way off our planning as far as a critical friends. Why don't we go and jump to some I likes so that they can hear what really resonates with you guys. We'll hit some I wonders, some more thinking around what you might be confused about or whatever, and then I bet they'd love to hear some next steps. Sound good? If you've got some. So we'll start with some I likes, and you guys can talk to yourselves, amongst yourselves.
I really like that you're using a modern day artist, just so because especially students at that age are really into music, and so that'll bring them really into the project and excited for it.
This is 6th grade, right?
Mhm.
But no, I like how they get to choose their own
Yeah.
artist, because then they'll actually be engaged with their work.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just like how this is, I don't know, I've never really heard of a project like this where you're comparing such different things, so I like the, they kind of thought outside the box with all this, I guess, with the project itself. I think it has really good, like, it's a really good start and everything to it. I like it.
I also like it because students will be listening to normal music and comparing it to poetry, so they won't listen to music the same way. They'll learn new ways of how it's created and really think about why it's like that.
What I like is that the group you have on it right now is actually taking a risk and letting these 6th graders be like the guinea pigs. And I'm like, I've been used to that all 4 years I've been here, being the guinea pigs of new projects. And so I'm glad that you're actually taking that risk. And that's pretty much what project-based learning is, taking risks and seeing where it could take you, where it doesn't. But it usually takes you very far. Which I like that you guys are doing that. Especially since I went to Silverado back in.
Did you have any of us as teachers?
No, I never went to 6th grade in Silverado. I went from 7th and 8th grade.
That's great. Okay. Good to move to I Wonders.
I was wondering, like, an artistic part of the project, because a lot of times that'll bring in new thoughts and ideas to the way that they look at it.
So sorry, clarify that? To bring in an artist, like painting a...
No, like an artistic thing to the project, possibly.
For instance, a student that likes to draw can
Draw.
add some drawings into it, or
Even making a poem based on a poet and an artist that they think would be similar, stuff like that.
Might be a possible next step.
Yeah, right. So, great idea. Sounds like a good next step that they could look into adding that to the project. Any I Wonders, anything that kind of jumps out at you as being something that might not flow well or might not be well understood or that they didn't consider in terms of...
The older poetry, like, it's pretty tough. How are you, like, gonna, like, break it down to make it, like, more easily understandable? Because even I'm a little bit confused with it every now and then.
I wonder, aside from the fact that you're allowing the students to pick their own, kind of run with the different artists and poets and such, I just wonder how you're going to keep them engaged throughout the whole project. Just because I know you can kind of drift off with, like, it's fun to pick your person, and then once that kind of, like, the glorification of that kind of dies down, then I wonder how you're going to be able to keep them engaged and wanting to do this project.
Great. So one next step was already shared about maybe kind
An
of
artistic
infusing
piece.
more artistic opportunity or creative art opportunities into the project. Any other next steps that you think they might explore to kind of continue designing this project?
I guess the next step would be the first step would just be rolling out the project. That's kind of one of the biggest things for, I don't know about other students, but I know for me personally, it's if it has a really bad rollout and I don't understand it right off the bat and it's just confusing, doesn't seem fun, I'm not into the project. So I would say the next step would just be making sure your first step is as engaging and clarifying as it could be.
I agree, because like when we just are reading a document in class altogether, that's what we're going to be doing, it's not that exciting. But when the teacher is really like, I'm trying to think of an example of a really good.
Like this last project, the one we're doing right now, they introduced this project about the Cold War and how they did it. We read through a document and then they showed this movie. It was really great. It was a really funny movie, but it like had a lot of explanation in it. So I guess kind of showing something interesting that would intrigue the students would do something. Not for say a movie, but that was just the most recent one we did.
A lot of teachers do like news broadcasts and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, just something to catch their eye and make them excited.
Yeah. Something different than them just explaining it to them.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate for me to ask a question?
Oh, it is. Actually, we're going to start right now with the team's response. So those are great ideas, you guys. Questions for them, elaborations on some of their thoughts. Go ahead and exchange.
Well, when you were thinking about the rollout, I was also thinking about the final product. Are there any things that hit your mind that you think would be an exciting, because we use technology and bringing in technology into this final product and it's kind of an open-ended question, but I mean, some ideas about, because we're obviously being English teachers thinking about writing something, when we want to have text and want to have that, but from your experience, can you think of anything that might be a way to bring in that writing, but in a way that's more dynamic, maybe, or
Prezi.
Huh?
It's like Prezi.
Oh, Prezi.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
like-
confusing.
I keep
It's-
thinking of like
It's not
slam
that
poetry.
confusing.
Like what?
the kids are
Slam
getting pretty
poetry.
good at
What was that?
Like doing poetry, but in different ways. But I don't think it would go with
I
there.
don't know how that. I don't know. I imagine something like what you had mentioned, the artistic piece, like how we did our American Dream
Oh yeah.
kind of thing, where you had a picture to represent what it is you're talking about. We had to find our American Dream and we had to photograph it, and then we had to explain what it is our American Dream was in like 100 symbols or whatever. But yours could be longer or however you want it to be.
It was a photographic essay.
Mm-hmm. So something engaging like that where they can be creative with it, aside from just writing a paper. You can do a picture, or maybe if you have like a singer, how to include like a song or something, or like a poem or
A dance.
something like that. Something where the students can individually like bring out
Show
their own
show their
skills.
skills. Do something that they love. I know that they're good at it.
How would we, I love that idea, we've been thinking something tangible,
Right.
something that the kids can really sink their teeth into, but, so having the Kennedy Center in Washington DC as our authentic purpose, I'm not sure how we could connect it unless we changed
Right.
that.
Forgot about that.
Well, I had an
aspect.
idea since I watch these things every year, the Kennedy Center Awards, and usually for the artists they have a little very short a movie like of their, not just their life but also their power as an artist and why they are being.
Like their inspiration almost.
Yeah, it goes. It's biographical, obviously, but then it also really gets into their art and.
That would be interesting. Another thing I could think
Is that
of.
something doable, though, do you think, for sixth graders? I mean,
That's the only thing is,
Yeah.
and you have the things for them to be able to do that.
yeah.
Like,
You can, in a
It's
way, could
doable.
set up a Prezi that would functionally do some parts of that, but I'm not sure it would be as fluid.
it's doable, but yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. I was like, maybe they won't hit on everything, like all the content wise. It's like,
Aside from the actual final product, a way of like engaging them in it, we would have like for a certain project, we had like an HBO, we had to pitch a series for it, and we had HBO producers come out and like be our panelists and all that. They weren't their parents or whatever, but the thought of it is kind of intriguing, especially when you're younger. Like my freshman year, because you weren't here, we did a cooking project and we had like chefs and stuff come out, and we thought that was just like the coolest thing ever because they came to our school and like took an interest in it. So I mean, you could have like even a parent or someone that could pretend to be from the Kennedy thing, just because that kind of engages them in that kind of way. Like, wow, like this is really cool. We really want to like try this.
well, they got us worse.
Hmm?
They got us worse in my freshman year.
Oh yeah.
We in that same class,
Mhm,
biofitness, we had to make a layout for the area right here, the garden area, and they had already had that area chosen, like before we even got there. And so they told us, "Oh, you're gonna make this. You're gonna make the layout, and whoever makes the best layout is gonna be the person who gets who they're gonna make it after." And then
A little garden
Yeah,
area.
our garden.
Okay.
And then when we find out, it's like, oh, it's already been
Um,
set up and
So you think you're doing something really cool to help your school, like
But
doing
you're
something
actually
really
not.
interesting. But you're really not.
we were bummed though.
It might not like you after, but it's kind of fun during.
So I just realized while you guys are bringing up these
Yeah.
excellent ideas that we do have a connection to the Arts Council through Maureen Brack, who is busy collecting actual community members who have amazing expertise in all different areas. This particular woman we sat with last week, this could be shifted from the Kennedy Center, something distant and not very meaningful to students, to somebody here, the Council for Arts for Napa, that supports all the artistry in the city and all the works that you see around the town.
Could the kids then maybe submit, if they submit the same stuff, but also in addition maybe something that they've created?
Yeah, I think the next step might be to call this person and
Yeah.
Olivia and have her
To
come
see
sit
what
with us
is within
and say, what could
reality.
we create that could have some reality in the end product? Not to shift our gears away from this, but just reposition it to her group instead of this.
And just always remember time, we'd have to be very timely about getting this.
Also, not all students may be very, can
Artistic.
draw, or
Yeah,
there's
maybe not very
artistics in other ways.
Mhm,
Like,
correct.
I can't draw for anything, so a lot of times, artistic things, I do poems.
Mhm.
And yeah, this we'd like them to create a poem or write a song, probably,
Right.
since that's the focus. And they have a group to work with, I think.
And we would say using that artist style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people would be in the groups?
4 probably.
4? Okay. You're bound to have an artist or one of those usually. That's usually how it turns out with us, like someone's artistic in some
Sometimes.
way.
Mhm.
Usually. Sometimes if you're really unlucky, then you
Yeah,
just get stuck with
absolutely.
like stick figure drawers, which is, you know.
That's all right.
So, do you guys have any more questions or thoughts for the?
Just one more. When you guys read it, did you think that it had to be a modern day artist, like current, or it was just an artist of their choice that was a meaningful person to them? Like, for example, my generation was during the 80s, but let's say I really liked an artist from the 60s, and that's who, or did you guys understand it as, when we presented it, is that they're picking a, like, so instead of, like, would they have to pick someone, like that guy with the funny hat, Farrell, or could they go back and pick Madonna or someone, you know, like, how did you guys understand that in the entry document?
I thought that as if they had to choose someone from today.
I thought someone from the past, but that's just me.
Sounds like it could be anyone, like it could be past or present. But was I could felt like it could go either way.
I think it sounded fine. It'll just vary for each student how they perceive it. Obviously, so we all
Yeah.
thought of it
Yeah.
differently.
Okay,
I would just make it really clear that you get to kind of be creative with this and choose whomever it is you want.
That's, I would like to be more open-ended like that. You can choose whoever, because then it gives them a wider range to choose a poet and a songwriter that have a similar style, because otherwise you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we take out current day?
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much to each of you. That was really
It's awesome.
an awesome but very valuable experience. So thank you for your time and your insight and your experience.
You're welcome.
Not a problem. Hope everything turns out.